Good evening, everybody. Happy Thursday. I hope you're all having a nice day, nice evening. I know there's a lot going on. I know there's a lot of distractions out there. I know all over the TV, no matter what channel you turn on, all over the news, they're talking about that horrendous crash from last night. I just want you to know I prayed hard last night, this morning, for those 67 people that were on that plane and the 3 pilots, the 3 soldiers that were on that chopper. I I don't wanna get into the ifs, ands, and whys. They're all human beings, whatever the case may be. They're all human beings, and they're all lost, and we have to keep them in our prayers, their souls, their families. So I'm gonna switch up the topic because I don't know about you, but I can't deal with that anymore. I mean, it's everywhere. Everywhere you look, that's what it is. Can't deal with that anymore. So we're gonna switch up the topic. Let's talk about excuse me, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And let's talk about HHS. I think that's no DHS, HHS. I don't know, whatever you want. I forgot the initials. What anyway, you know what I'm talking about. That he's going to lead the the government health system. And I've sat and I've listened to him do interviews. You know, he did an interview with Tucker Carlson. He did an interview with, I know there was a couple others he did interviews with. And he really sparked my interest. And I just want to talk to you about a few things. I really don't know. My hair's a little screwed up. I don't care. I don't know who's on what side of the fence. I really don't care. I did watch how he was slandered and gone after, screamed at, just he was treated like garbage during the interviews. And it just it showed me how really closed-minded and stupid people are. I'm not saying everybody was wrong. I am not saying that. I'm just saying there were many that were rude, ignorant, and just nasty. Elizabeth Warren, to say the least. So I'm just going to talk about what he's trying to do that I have seen him do interviews on. Things we eat, okay? All the ingredients that are in foods that other countries have banned. Now, if you look at, let me ask you a question. When you see pictures of China and Chinese people, and do you ever see a fat one? Obese, because I've not. I've not. Chubby kids, yes, maybe, but adults, no, they are not obese. And and you look at our population. I mean, if you look at the people in other countries, really, it's not that hard. Go on Google, do a research, look up, populations in Poland and Italy and talk about Italy. Okay, look at all that pasta. But their pasta is not processed the same way ours is. That's the difference. Preservatives. Let's make a comparison. When I was raising my kids and I bought a loaf of bread and I'd have it on the counter, right? How long did it last? Maybe a week before it got all moldy? Maybe a week. Now, I raised my kids in the 70s and the 80s. So a fresh loaf of bread only lasted about a week on the counter. That's if the kids didn't eat it all first. Now you buy a loaf of bread, and I've done it because it's basically just me eating a loaf of bread, right? Because it's just me and my grandson, and he really doesn't eat sandwiches, but I do. So basically, I'm the only one eating bread. I buy a loaf of bread at the Dollar General or anywhere. I'm not just focusing on Dollar General. I go buy a loaf of bread, I put it on my counter. It takes me, at a minimum, 3 weeks to get through a loaf of bread. Do you know when I finally get to the end of that loaf of bread, whether it be 3, 4 weeks, sometimes it's been there a month. Do you know it's just as soft as it was the day I bought it? And do you know the ironic thing about it? It never molds. Isn't that a scary thought? What kind of preservatives is in that loaf of bread to make it stay fresh for a month on the counter? Not even getting stiff. Not even getting stiff. No mold. A month. You're talking about pesticides. You're talking about um, in your wheat, in your grain to make that bread. Look at the insecticides that go on it. The the preservatives that are put into it once it gets to the factory. Yeah, there's a whole lot of stuff in there. It's not like our parents or grandparents, flour, yeast, little sugar. No, there's a whole bunch other stuff in there. Words we can't even say. Okay, let's move on. Dyes that they put into food. The red dyes, the yellow dyes, the green dyes, the orange dyes. Look at Fruit Loops. All Kellogg products. All the cereals that you feed your kids every day has got food dye in it. Is it food dye? It's what they say. Do you know every one of those has lead and poison in it that causes cancer? Yep. That's what's making kids sick. All these preservatives and dyes is what, you know, kids are attracted to color, right? The colors are so appetizing. That's why kids love Fruit Loops. They love Cocoa Puffs. They love all these cereals that's got these artificial flavoring and these colorings in it. They're attracted to that, just like they are attracted to crayons, right? Or finger paints. They love color. Do you know what's your biggest for us adults? Well, and kids, Doritos and Cheetos. And you know, I used to eat the jalapeno Cheetos like a daily snack. That was my go-to when I was working in corporate world. I would have a bag sitting on my desk. And as I'm working, I'd grab a couple of Cheetos, pop it in my mouth. You know that orangey flavoring that you get all over your hands, right? And you got to kind of do one of these. Uh, yeah, that's not healthy. Doritos. Look up some of the ingredients. If you've got Doritos at home, just take 15 minutes out of your evening or out of your day tomorrow and look up some of them big words that's on the back of that Dorito package. I'll bet you're not going to buy another bag of Doritos. Google might not tell you. You might have to use a different web browser. Just want to give you a heads up. I don't use Google. That's how I get my information. Don't use it. Here's another thought that's going to churn your gut a little bit. You go to the grocery store. You know, back when I was younger, up until about 20 years ago, maybe 25 years ago, there was butcher shops, fresh local butcher shops where you could go in there, pick out a chunk of meat and tell the butcher how much you want cut off for yourself. You know, oh, that's a nice pork loin there. Can you give me about 5 pounds of that? Because 'Cause it'd be a huge, right? And you knew it was fresh. You knew it. You don't find that anymore. There is no more corner butcher store shops. There there is none. So, your only choice is to get packaged meat out of Walmart, out of Kroger, out of County Market, out of, Hy-Vee, whatever stores by you, Jewel. Trying to think of the ones that I used to shop at in this city. It's been so many years. I think it was Jewel and Walmart, but they got the big family packs. You could buy that. And Aldi's is another one. And we're forced not to know how old that meat is because it's not coming from a fresh butcher shop, right? You just kind of got to take their word for it. Just buy the family pack. And I still to this day will buy a family pack, even though it's just the two of us. I still buy the family pack. And then when I get home, I break it down and I rewrap it into freezer bags and put that in my freezer. This way I'm getting the discount from the family pack, right? That's the way I shop. But here's the thing, and I'm going to tell you about one incident that I had. I went and I bought a family pack of pork chops, right? They looked nice. They looked really fresh and nice. Finished up my shopping, went home, got my freezer bags out, opened up the package of pork chops so that I could split them up, right? I picked up the very first pork chop. It was so slimy, it was sliding through my fingers. I almost vomited. That's how nasty it was. Now, this is the same pork chop that had that nice pink, fresh look to it. Needless to say, that whole package went in the garbage because I live rural, 17 miles from the grocery store. You got to be economical with your gas. So I'm thinking cost of the package that meat, if I take it back round trip to the grocery store, the price of gas is going to cost me to return that package than it is to just chuck it. So that's what I did. I just threw it out, the whole package. There was no way I was going to wash that meat off and throw it in my freezer. If it's that slimy, you know what they're doing, don't you? They're taking the outdated meat that didn't sell. They're taking it back in the back room. They're coloring it. They're rubbing color on it, washing it off, rubbing color on it, repackaging it with a new Best Buy date, and putting it back out there for you. That's what they're doing. That's what I think. Why would pork chops be that slimy? Literally, gummy, slimy, right? Okay. And then on top of that, you don't know what that cow, that beef, steer, gotta be politically correct, what that steer was fed or what that pig was fed. You don't know. Was it grazed? Oh, no. Have you ever gone to a processing plant? Those animals they don't even have room to walk around in those stalls, then they're raised that way all their lives. They've never seen a pasture. That's how they're raised. Cruel? Very. You don't know what's injected in them. You don't know what they're fed. They feed them very high protein to fatten them up and grow them bigger, faster, unnaturally faster. And whatever they eat, it's in their meat. That's what you're eating. That doesn't happen in other countries. These are some of the things Robert F. Kennedy is fighting for us today. They were badgering him, and childhood obesity came up. Okay, first, let's take a look at there's going to be a lot of haters out there for this. That's if anybody even watches my videos. I'm only getting 2 viewers, 2 to 3 viewers a video. So I guess it really doesn't matter what I say. But in any case, childhood obesity. When I was raising my kids, that was before the computers. We certainly didn't have cell phones. Pagers were just coming out. So when my kids got home from school, they went out and played. They went out, played basketball, baseball, met their buddies on the corner and go shoot hoops. There was no weight gain. There was no sitting on the couch with a cell phone all day and all night, flipping through TikTok and whatever else and WhatsApp and all them other. No, there was none of that. Wasn't invented yet. Kids went to playgrounds. Kids played sports. In the summer, kids would go swimming. Hell, half the time my kid would walk out the front door and I didn't see him until the street lights came on, because that was my rule, as my father had my rule. I don't care. My father's rule was I don't care where you go, because he knew the neighborhood. He knew who I was hanging with. His rule was, see you later. Don't you dare come back when that street light comes on. You better already be in the house. So when my kids were growing up, it was the same rule. You can go out after school, after dinner, you can go out. But when that street light comes on, you better have your ass on that couch. And that was the way it was. So I think that's got a lot to do with childhood obesity. Another reason why there's childhood obesity is because um, I've seen this. I'm sure anybody that sees this video has seen it too, where parents of today, even as young as, oh God, before a kid starts walking, if they cry, the mother puts something on her phone, music or something, and gives it to the baby. And the baby's sitting there with the phone or puts on a little game or a cartoon, and the toddler is sitting there watching the phone. Well, do you know how addicting that is? You're making an addict out of your baby, out of your toddler with technology. I mean, people do it with their pets. Bird. I've looked it up. I've seen it. Guy got a cat. My cat's not pouncing on my tablet. I like the cat, but I'm not risking my tablet. And anyway, so these kids, they're on technology from the age of cutting teeth to by the time they're 5, they want a phone of their own. So what's happening in this generation, parents are using their phones to occupy their kid so that they could go do their own thing. In other words, they're making the phone or a tablet the babysitter. In the meantime, that kid's getting addicted to technology. And then what happens by the time the kid is 5 to 7? The kid's got his first phone. Oh, mommy's getting a new phone. You can have my old one. So now the kid is sitting on the couch with phone in his hand, cartoons on the big screen, no reason to go out for physical activity at all. None. No incentive to go outside and play. Play? What is that? Go hang out with your friends. What friends? My friends are on my phone. So, RFK Jr. talking about obesity, childhood obesity. And you could see it in the 20-year-olds too, 30-year-olds. How much physical movement do they have, especially with this work at home bullshit? Where do they got to go? They don't even have to get dressed. And half the time they don't. So between phones and tablets and computers and laptops and no exercise, there's your obesity. And let's throw some chips and, Doritos and Cheetos and throw all that in there, and there's your obesity. And what comes with obesity? Diabetes, heart disease, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, eventually strokes, blockages, cardiovascular disease. It's where it comes from. Now let's talk about childhood. Going to the doctor from day one and all of them. Do you know that when I was born, I got a polio sugar cube? It was a sugar cube. It wasn't even an injection. It was a sugar cube that my doctor gave me. And it had the polio juice. I don't know which in it. And he gave me a little sugar cube and says, "Here, eat this." That was for polio, whatever was in that sugar cube. And I got a tetanus shot. I don't think I got any more. Okay, I'm 70. Now, when my kids were growing up in the 70s, and then I had 2 in the 70s and then 1 in the 80s. When they were growing up, they got nothing in the hospital. There was not like today, nothing in the hospital. You took your kid in for an 8-week checkup, and I don't recall if at the 8-week checkup or was it the 3-month checkup that they got their first round of, and it wasn't the, MMR wasn't out yet. That wasn't out. So, I don't remember what the vaccine was. I don't remember what it was that the kids got back in the 70s. But anyway, there was just, a couple, of course, polio was one, and by that time, it did come in a shot form. No more sugar cubes. Um, they all got they all got chicken pox. Oh, that's another thing. When I was growing up, we got chicken pox. We suffered through it. Parents, cousins, aunts, uncles, they'd throw all us kids together so that we'd all get chicken pox together. We used to call it chicken pox parties so that they done and over with, because once you get them, that's it, right? Oh, cousin Susie over there's got chicken pox. Oh, come on, let's go over there. And yeah, then we all come down with chicken pox. Well, back when I was growing up, we did the same thing with measles and mumps. Yep. And I'm here to talk about it. I cannot believe the way people freak out about measles these days? Let me tell you about a little research I did. The measles jab, all alone, not combined with anything else, was made around between the years 1965 to 1968. At that time, there was more than 500,000 cases of measles that occurred each year in the United States. In 1971, it was combined with the mumps and rubella shot, which then they called it the MMR shot, mumps, measles, and rubella. And that was in 1971. Now, keep in mind, my kids all had chickenpox because they didn't have that vaccine out. But they did get the mumps, measles, and rubella shot. Now, according to the CDC, 3 to 4 million per year in the USA what did I write down here? Oh, I was looking up the case numbers of measles, but I didn't finish writing out my paper. Oh, that's what it was. In the United States, there's 3 to 4 million cases a year of measles. That was prior to the vaccine, okay? During that same period, 3 to 4 million kids. Now, that's a lot of kids in a year. Out of that 3 to 4 million kids, 4 to 500 of them died from it. So you've got 3 to 4 million cases and 4 to 500 it caused death. Isn't that the big pushing point that you hear everybody scream about toward RFK Jr. about these, you know, children jabs and what they're doing, what some people think they're doing, you know, with development and things like that. That's why I looked up the statistics on measles. If you've got 3 to 400, 3 to 4 million kids with measles, and 4 to 500 of them, it's bad enough to cause death. Even one child dying is not acceptable, but we can't prevent that. I mean, more than 4 to 500 get into a car accident and die. It's as hard as it is, more than that die on a daily basis. Hell, look at Chicago with all the shootings and everything going on. You got 3 to you got 4 to 500 a year in Chicago. They're shooting. Or car accidents or some freaky, you know, fall off your bike and hit your head on a curb or something. I mean, freaky things. And you're gonna complain about not not getting the measles? Uh, Jabby, you're you got bigger fish to fry, right? I mean, to get this or to not get this and be perfectly healthy or take the risk of getting this and possibly getting a side effect that affects the mental development. Because these things weren't invented until 1971. And do you know, I looked it up, and when I was raising my kids, they got, because of school mandates and stuff, I think their vaccine quota was like 26. Do you know your baby, from baby to high school, the vaccine count now is 70 something? 70 something chemicals being pumped into. Why at birth, before babies even go home, do they get a Hep C shot? Why? Who are they going to come in contact with right out of the womb? Why? Don't get me wrong, I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I'm not. Kinda. If I step on a rusty nail, yeah, I'm gonna go get a tetanus shot. If that's all that's in there. Hmm. Yeah, I have trust issues. I don't take a flu shot. I don't take a pneumonia shot. I don't take a shingles shot. Oh, and let me tell you about that measles shot. My youngest son, he had the MMR round, right? He got that. And then one day he went to daycare, and I was notified that one of the other kids broke out in measles. And I better watch my son. And I said, well, I don't have to worry. He got it. He got a shot for that. Nope. About a week later, He got up in the morning and I'm looking at him and he's like, "Mommy, I'm itchy." And I took a look at him and I'm like, "Oh my God." I called up the pediatrician. He's like, "Well, I can't have you bring him in to verify that, but pull into the alley and come to my back door. Don't get out. Call me when you get there or honk the horn and I'll come out. Keep the windows shut. I'll look through the window and I'll let you know." Well, I totally understand. He certainly didn't want that kid in his waiting room. So when I got to the doctor's office, I honked the horn and he came out. He looked in the back seat, looked in the window. My son pulled up his shirt and showed the doctor. And the doctor just came, walked around the car to my driver window, and he says, "Yep, that's the measles." He says, "I'm going to tell you right now, your whole house is getting quarantined because I have to report this to the health department." And I'm like, "Wait a minute, me and my husband work." He goes, "Not for 10 more days." He's like, "You are in quarantine." Thank you, childcare place. So apparently that MMR didn't do its job because my son ended up getting measles anyway. And then this grandson that I got, oh, he got all his shots, baby shots, all his grammar school shots. He ended up getting the mumps. I clearly remember that because it scared the living hell out of me because when I had mumps as a kid, I only got them on one side. I called my doctor and I says, "Hey, my grandson just broke out with mumps. Do I have to anything to worry about?" And she's like, "Yeah, you can get mumps on the other side." Thank God I didn't, but I could have. And back then I was in my late 50s working in a hospital. That would have been awkward. So anyway, these things that everybody is backstabbing RFK Jr. over, I stand right alongside him. Get rid of all the poisons. Get rid of all this BS. Get rid of all that. Stop with the ADHD. Because when my kids were growing up, I didn't even ever hear of ADHD. I never even heard of it. Didn't know what it was. It didn't exist. Sudden death syndrome didn't exist. What's that other one? Autism. Never heard of it. Never heard of any of it when I was raising my kids. And I got 3 other siblings that were raising kids right along with me and all my nieces and nephews. Never heard of it. Corporate worker. Worked with many, many, many moms. Never heard of it. Not until the later years. So all these rounds of jabs. Yeah. I stand right with RFK Jr. Get to the bottom of what's going on here. get to the bottom of why a loaf of bread lasts a month without getting stale or moldy. Get rid of all the food coloring. Do you know that other countries do not allow our food products to go into their country? Do you know our food is banned in other countries? Why do you think that is? But yet we're sitting there watching TV, chowing down on everything, getting Alzheimer's, only living into the 50s, 60s, 70s. We're lucky if we make it to 80. When other countries, they're living 90 and 100. You see those old Chinese people, they're like 110. Why? What are they doing? It's what they're eating. Pure, natural, untainted food. Look into it. I've already had you guys on for 51 minutes on my rant. It was nice talking to you. Seriously, people, give up 15 minutes. Look this up. Please look it up. And don't be so quick to condemn, because RFK is onto something. You have a wonderful evening. God bless you all. Please like and subscribe. And I hope to see somebody watching this video, because I do watch to see how many view it. I'm not the most popular. Have a wonderful evening. Good night.